the mid-watch continues. We're still rigged for red. So it's time for another story. So when I first got to the Henry Clay, I was an off crew for a while. And then it was time to go take the boat. And it was getting to be just about the beginning of summer, kind of like the end of May, early June. And we drove down on buses from Charleston, South Carolina, and took what seemed like a trip of about 322 hours to get down by bus on US 17 all the way down. Although we were on the highway for a little while, but it was 1980 and the highway system wasn't exactly what it was or is today, which is to say. But 95 ran all the way down, but we had to take 26 all the way out, so it was easier to take 17 down. And it wasn't such a great ride exactly all the way. And it took about, I don't know, maybe three and a half hours. But every seat in the bus was filled, and there were 3 buses full of guys. And underneath the bottom of the buses were all of our sea bags. And there was a truck that was loaded up that had all the cruise boxes in it, so every division had a box. And it had all your paperwork in it, all your manuals, all your books, all the things you needed to operate. So everything was packed up and on down we rolled. And we got off the highway, and it was I think it was exit 2 then. It's exit 3 now. It's mile marker 3. But it was exit 2 then. And we got off, and there was a Hardee's there. And, there was a Hardee's there. And this little gift store called the GAFLA, the Gafla store. And that was about it. Literally, that was about it. And we rolled off and rolled on down the road, and we drove, and we passed the opening gates to the sub base, and there was a security guard out there, kind of like a rent-a-cop, and he waved, and we rolled on past, and that was about all the security. And this base wasn't nothing like Charleston. I think there was like maybe one main building, and there was a bunch of trailers parked off to the left and the right just as you came through the gate. And we rolled on and on and on and on, deeper and deeper into the swamp, and deeper into the swamp. And we got down to the end of the road till there was no more road. And if you looked out one window, you could see where they'd parked a dry dock off to the left. And if you looked off to the right, there was the tender. And there was 2 submarines there, one on each side. And it turns out it was the Henry Clay and the Daniel Boone. And the buses pulled off into this parking lot. It was gravel, of course. And we got there, and the buses pulled up at the end of the brow of the tender, and the cruise boxes got offloaded on the pallets, and the pallets got swung over, and they were placed in the back of the missile deck. And we were all in our dress uniforms, our whites. Well, they were Cracker Jacks then. They weren't even Cracker Jacks. Take that back. They were salt and peppers. So you had black pants and a white shirt and a combination cap. And so we went up on the tender, and we saluted, and we all crossed the brow of the tender, and then we went on down the brow of the submarine and met our cruise boxes and all of our sea bags coming across. And most guys carried their own bag if they could find it. I had mine strung across my back, and by the time I got to the boat, I was huffing and puffing because it was all the way up this big brow to the end of the tender to get on, and then across the tender, and down one level, down one level, down one level, across, then down the brow again to the submarine and get down there, and holy cow, I was sweating like a pig. It must have been about 90 degrees out, and humidity was, we were in the swamp, and the humidity was up. It was hot. So anyway, we got there probably, I don't know, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'd missed chow, and so dinner would be coming up about 5, and you get there and the other crew's there, and you're meeting people you've never met before, and they're the other crew, your counterparts you're going to turn over with. But the way duty worked on that is you were port and starboard, and I was in the duty section. It was off the first day when they got there. So as you came on, there really wasn't any kind of duty to be had. You know, we weren't standing watch on the boat because we wouldn't relieve for another 4 or 5 days. But so the other crew still had the boat, but we would start paralleling the watches, and the duty section that was staying was going to put things away. So it got to be, I don't know, about 5 or 6 o'clock, and we were there, and all the deck division guys were putting stuff away, and you know, I got shown to where my rack was, and Master Chief Russell, who was the chief of the boat, took me down and showed me my rack. Says, "This is your rack. This is where you're going to sleep, and this is how you make it up. This is the way you're going to leave it when you get it." And you know, somebody else's stuff was already in it, but he was just showing me how things were going to go. So until we took the boat over, we were staying on the tender in a berthing area. So all of our sea bags were down there, and they said we could come down and, you know, you come down and change in the torpedo room or change in the missile compartment in the morning. But all of our facilities, all the places we were going to sleep, were on the tender. And those were like 4 high bunks, and it was just like one huge open bay barracks room for 130 guys. It was horrible. Anyhow, these guys rounded me up, and I was with a couple of A-gangers and a couple of missile techs. So the guy named Mike Grabowski would kind of take me under his wing. Everybody called him Grub, and he was just kind of this real cheerful, happy, you know, just kind of New York accent kind of guy. "Hey Pat, come on, we're gonna go out. Let's get a beer." And with Timmy Riley, he was from New York. He was an A-ganger, and Mo Pullins, and he was one of the few black guys we had on board. So we had some Filipino guys. We had a couple of black guys. And most of the crew, at that time, most of the guys on submarines were white. But so there was a duty van, and they commandeered that, and had a guy that was driving, and they went out, and we were in search of the nightlife in Kings Bay, Georgia. There's not much nightlife in Kings Bay, Georgia. So we got to the base, and they stopped and asked the guard at the gate, the guy out there in the middle of nowhere. And I swear to God, there were mosquitoes, and they were so big they had squadron numbers painted on the side of them, and they were dive bombing. They come in like they were dive bombing you, and you know, it was horrible. And it is the middle of the swamp. So this guy said, "Yeah, you go up here to the road, and you make a right, and you go down about 3 or 4 miles, and there's a place called the Bloody Bucket." He says, the sign outside says it's the Crooked River Lounge. He said, "You're almost to the state park. If you get to the state park, you went too far. But this place will be on the left." He said, "But you'll see it. It's the only thing with lights on down that way." He was right. It was the only thing with lights on down that way. Well, long story short, we got down there, offloaded out of the van, and the duty driver dropped us off. And we said, you know, come back and get us in a couple hours, and we'd see what was going on. Well, we walked into the bar, and there were 2 sides to the bar. And we walked in, and there was like this horseshoe area, and there was a girl back behind the bar, and she was like putting glasses away and doing things like a bartender would do. And then there was another side on the over, and it had like a wooden dance floor looking kind of thing, and they were setting up a bandstand. And we asked about that, and they said that there was a band coming in because the submarines and the tender were there, and they were going to actually have a band come in. But we were there like on a Tuesday, and the band was going to be there on Friday. So we'd have to look forward to that because it wasn't happening just yet. So we went back over on the bar side, and we're kind of looking around, and it's a horseshoe bar, and you couldn't help but notice it's a dirt floor. There's no tile, it's literally a dirt floor horseshoe bar, and the bar was made out of plywood. Real classy place. So we're there and start, you know, ordering beers and stuff, and there's about 10 of us all together. And this little girl who's very obviously pregnant and who's very barefoot looked over, and she saw Mo Pullins, and he's got this afro, and he wasn't a real dark skinned kind of guy, but you know, you could tell he was black. He had an afro. And she kind of looked at him real hard and kind of looked at us and looked back at him, and she says, "Oh my God, we don't serve his kind here." And Timmy Riley was like, "What kind is that?" "He's an A-ganger." And she says, "I don't know what that means." She says, "But he's colored." And he said, "Yeah, he's colored." And Mo's looking like, you know, like somebody farted in church. And she says, "We don't serve his kind here. He needs to go to the colored bar out on 17. It's green something." And we were like, you got to be kidding me. It's 1980 and a black guy can't drink in the bar in Kings Bay, Georgia. And she's like, oh no, I'm sorry. It's just how things are. There's no going to be. And Timmy Riley just pops right up. Well, if that's bullshit, we'll just tear this place down. She says, oh no, honey, you need to settle down. It's not. She said, that's just the way things are here. And so Timmy says, well, we'll call the sheriff. And she says, honey, the sheriff owns the bar. Punchline, the sheriff owns the bar. Black people can't drink in the bar. So we said, well, where's this other bar that you told us about that he can drink in? And she said, oh, it's on US 17. You go out about 4 miles down, and that's the way we come in. So we kind of had an idea where that was. And she said, but, and we were like, but what? And, Timmy and Mike and all these guys, they were kind of pissed off, because we weren't really used to this sort of thing. And this was like real prejudice right there. You could see it. Black guy can't drink in the bar. And she says, well, you can't go with him. And one of the guys says, well, why not? And she says, well, they won't serve you. That's a colored bar, so he can go there, but you can stay here. She said, but we don't mix like that here. And that was my first taste of Kings Bay, Georgia in 1979. Honey, he can't drink in the bar. He's colored. Well, that's all I got for now. We entered refit, and it got hotter and hotter and hotter. And I swear to God, it got to be 115 degrees. And the boat ended up in the dry dock. And oh my God, I thought I was going to die right there down the floor of the dry dock. 115 degrees. There were snakes and there were alligators. And there was a bar that didn't serve black people in 1980 in Kings Bay, Georgia. That's my story for now. Hope you like that one. There'll be more to come. Have a great Navy day. Bye for now.